Bali was the kind of place that looked like it had been painted by the gods themselves. The waves rolled in slow and silver under a setting sun, palm trees swayed lazily, and the air smelled of salt and jasmine. Tourists wandered through the open-air lobby of the Grand Paloma Resort, their flip-flops clicking against polished marble floors. For most people, this island was a paradise. But for one mother and daughter checking in that evening, paradise was about to become a cage. The receptionist smiled as the two Americans approached the counter. The mother, a woman in her late 40s with sharp cheekbones and a commanding presence, slid her passport across the desk before her daughter could even open her mouth. Her movements were brisk, almost military. "Reservation under my name," she said firmly, her credit card already in hand. The daughter, barely 18, stood half a step behind. She was pretty in a soft, almost fragile way, with long dark hair tied back loosely. Her eyes flickered around the lobby, to the chandeliers, to the Balinese carvings, to the revolving door behind them. She looked like someone searching for an exit. The receptionist glanced between them. "Two guests, correct?" "Yes, two," the daughter answered quickly, her voice light, polite. But the mother cut her off. "Make sure all charges go to me. My card, my room. Always my card." The daughter's smile faltered. She lowered her eyes, folded her hands together, and said nothing more. As they rode the elevator up, the silence between them was heavy, almost suffocating. The mother tapped her fingernails against the brass railing, each click echoing in the small space. The daughter hugged her phone to her chest, as if it were the only piece of freedom she had left. From the outside, they could have been mistaken for any mother and daughter on vacation, two women escaping the noise of America for a few days of sun and sea. But if you looked closer, there was something different. The mother's every word carried the weight of control. The daughter's every glance carried the plea of someone who wanted to break free but didn't know how. When the elevator doors opened, the mother walked straight ahead without waiting. The daughter trailed behind, dragging her suitcase, her shoulders tense. A guest passing in the hallway smiled at them. The daughter returned the smile faintly, almost desperately, as though she wanted to whisper, "Please see me. Please know something is wrong." They entered room 708, the heavy door shutting with a dull thud. To the hotel staff, it was just another check-in. To the daughter, it was the beginning of a night she would never escape alive. Inside room 708, the glow of Bali's sunset barely reached through the thick curtains. The room was beautiful, polished teak furniture, white linens crisp against the king-sized bed, a balcony overlooking the ocean. But the air was heavy, not with tropical warmth, but with tension. The mother unpacked swiftly, every motion precise, folding clothes into drawers as if the room belonged to her alone. The daughter lingered near the balcony doors, sliding one open to let in a breath of sea air. The relief was short-lived. "Close that," the mother snapped. "You'll let the bugs in." The daughter obeyed, but her voice trembled with something she could no longer keep bottled up. "Mom, can we talk about college money again? I can't keep waiting. Deadlines are coming." The mother froze, turned slowly, her eyes narrowing. "Do not start this here. We came for peace, not arguments." "Peace?" The daughter's laugh was hollow. "You mean control. You hold everything. The money, the choices, even this trip. I just want a chance to breathe." The mother's lips tightened into a thin line. "Don't be ungrateful. Everything you have is because of me. Your clothes, your education, this vacation. Without me, you'd have nothing." For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the air conditioner. The daughter sank onto the edge of the bed, her shoulders slumped but her spirit not entirely crushed. She pulled out her phone, her thumbs moving quickly over the screen, sending messages into the digital void, to friends back home, to someone who might understand. The mother's eyes followed her like a hawk. "Who are you texting?" "No one," the daughter said too quickly, turning the phone face down. The mother's gaze lingered, suspicion etched into every line of her face. But she said nothing more. Instead, she switched on the television, the bright flicker filling the silence. The daughter lay back, staring at the ceiling. On the outside, she was trapped in a paradise hotel room with her mother. On the inside, she was already building invisible doors, trying to imagine a way out. And as the night deepened over Bali, two women lay awake under the same roof, one clinging to control, the other clinging to hope, not knowing that this silent battle would soon turn into something deadly. Morning came to Bali with the sound of roosters echoing faintly from nearby villages and the smell of salt drifting in from the sea. Guests trickled into the resort cafe, sipping papaya juice and laughing over travel plans. To them, it was another perfect day in paradise. But on the 7th floor, paradise had cracked. At 7:15 a.m., the elevator doors opened in the lobby, and the mother stepped out alone. Her face was composed, her hair neatly tied back, as though nothing in the world was out of place. She carried her handbag tucked tightly under her arm, her stride purposeful. "Good morning, ma'am," the concierge greeted warmly. The mother forced a quick smile. "My daughter went out early," she said casually. "She likes to explore. Probably at the beach by now." The words were smooth, almost rehearsed, but they didn't match the picture. Behind her, no daughter followed. No laughter, no sleepy footsteps, no camera swinging on a young girl's shoulder. Just silence. By mid-morning, staff noticed something odd. The daughter's passport and purse were still inside the room. Her shoes sat neatly by the bed. The bed itself was untouched on one side. It was as if she had vanished without ever stepping outside. The housekeeper whispered her concern to the floor supervisor. The supervisor took it to the manager. Within hours, the hotel's calm veneer began to crack. When the manager politely asked the mother if she had heard from her daughter, the woman's response was sharp. "She's fine. Stop asking. She's independent, always running off. You don't need to worry." But worry was already spreading. Guests recalled seeing the daughter at dinner the night before, quiet but present, following behind her mother. None had seen her that morning. By late afternoon, the hotel could no longer ignore it. The staff placed a call to the local police, reporting a missing guest. Officers arrived, their uniforms crisp against the tropical heat, notebooks in hand. They questioned the mother, who repeated her story firmly. Her daughter went out early. She'll be back. But every word rang hollow. The officers noted her stiff tone, the flicker of irritation in her eyes. Something didn't add up. In Bali, a place built on beauty and hospitality, whispers of something darker began to stir. The daughter was gone, and the Paradise Resort was about to become a crime scene. The Balinese police didn't waste time. By evening, the once serene resort lobby buzzed with uniformed officers, curious guests, and hotel staff whispering in tight circles. The mother sat stiffly in an armchair, sipping water, as if her composure alone could hold back the tide closing in on her. Detective Aman, a veteran of Denpasar's homicide unit, asked the manager for full access to security footage. Within an hour, he and his team crowded into the tiny monitoring room, screens flickering with images from every hallway, elevator, and entrance. "Start with last night," Aman ordered. The footage rolled back. At first, it looked ordinary. Tourists carrying beach bags, couples laughing in the hallways. Then, at 10:47 p.m., the camera outside room 708 captured a sharp, unsettling scene. The daughter appeared first, standing in the hallway with her phone in hand. Her face was pale, tense. Seconds later, the mother stormed into view. She grabbed her daughter's wrist with a force that made the girl stumble. The camera had no sound, but her lips moved rapidly, angrily. The daughter shook her head, tried to pull away. The mother yanked harder and shoved her back inside the room. The door slammed. Iman leaned closer to the screen. "Play it again," he said. The room fell silent as the grainy footage looped. The struggle, the pull, the slam. Hours passed on the timestamp. Nothing. No one came out. Then, at 4:12 a.m., the door opened again. The hallway was empty, except for the mother. She dragged a large, dark suitcase, straining under its weight. Her face was set, expressionless, as if carved in stone. She wheeled it down the corridor, into the elevator. "Where did she take it?" an officer asked. "Follow the cameras," Iman replied. They tracked the suitcase through each angle. The elevator doors closing, reopening on the ground floor, the mother struggling to roll it across the lobby when most guests slept. Finally, one exterior camera caught her pushing it toward the service area behind the hotel, where the dumpsters sat. She disappeared into the shadows. When the footage ended, no one spoke for a long moment. The evidence was damning. Detective Aman finally turned to his team. The mother said her daughter left early this morning. But the truth is here. The girl never walked out of this hotel alive. The weight of the words filled the room. The staff who had adored the daughter's quiet smile now shivered. Paradise had revealed its first crack wide open, a brutal truth, captured forever by the unblinking eye of a camera. The next morning, the tropical sun rose bright and merciless over the resort, but in the service alley behind the hotel, shadows clung to the corners. A maintenance worker wheeled out a cart of linens toward the dumpsters when he stopped short. There, near the trash bins, sat a large black suitcase. It looked out of place. Guests never left luggage here. And this one, it seemed swollen, its zippers strained, as if packed beyond capacity. The worker wrinkled his nose. Even in the open air, there was a faint, sour odor seeping from it. He called out to his supervisor. Soon, a small group of staff gathered, exchanging uneasy glances. No one wanted to touch it. Finally, the manager ordered security to notify the police. Detective Amon arrived within minutes. He approached the suitcase slowly, crouched down, and pressed a gloved hand against the side. The odor was stronger now, unmistakable. He stood and gave a single nod. Open it. An officer slid a blade through the lock and pulled the zipper. The moment the case cracked open, a wave of stench burst into the alley. Several staff members turned away, gagging. Inside, twisted and folded, was the lifeless body of the daughter. Her long hair was tangled, her arms pressed awkwardly against her chest, her face pale and still. She had been stuffed inside like cargo, hidden away as if her life meant nothing more than discarded trash. Gasps and cries broke the silence. One housekeeper sobbed into her hands. A bellboy whispered a prayer. Even hardened officers lowered their eyes. Detective Amon straightened, his jaw tight. Seal this area. No one in or out. This is a homicide scene. Word spread through the hotel like wildfire. Guests stared from balconies. Reporters began circling. And within hours, the image of that suitcase was on every news station from Bali to New York. Back in the lobby, the mother sat calmly, sipping tea as if nothing had happened. But when officers returned for her, cuffs in hand, the calm facade cracked. Her eyes darted wildly, her lips pressed tight. She didn't resist, but her silence spoke louder than any scream. Paradise was broken now. The suitcase had told the truth her lies could not bury, and the world would never forget what was found inside it. The interrogation room inside Denpasar's central police station was a far cry from the polished resort in Bali. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, the walls bare, the table cold metal. The mother sat rigid in her chair, hands folded neatly in front of her as though she were still in control. But the steel cuffs at her wrists told another story. Detective Amon entered with a slim file under his arm. He dropped it onto the table, letting the sound echo through the room. He didn't sit right away. He simply looked at her, his silence heavier than any accusation. "Do you know why you're here?" he finally asked. The mother's voice was calm, almost rehearsed. "My daughter went out last night. I don't know what happened to her. I've been telling you this." Iman opened the file. Photographs spilled out, grainy stills from CCTV, the swollen suitcase, the daughter's lifeless body. He slid one photo across the table. "She never left the hotel. The camera caught you pulling her into the room. Hours later, it caught you dragging this suitcase. Do you want to explain?" Her jaw tightened. For the first time, her mask of composure slipped. "You don't understand," she whispered. She was out of control. She was going to ruin everything. "Ruin what?" Iman pressed. "She wanted to abandon me. After everything I've given her. The money, the life, the sacrifices. She was ungrateful." The words came faster now, sharper, dripping with bitterness. She was going to run off with some boy, leave me alone, make me look like a fool. Iman leaned forward, his voice low and steady. "So you killed her? Your own daughter?" The mother's eyes flashed, a mix of defiance and desperation. "I didn't kill her. She pushed me. She screamed at me. It was an accident." "An accident," Iman repeated, holding up another photo, the daughter crammed into the suitcase. "And this? Was it an accident to fold her body into a bag and throw it out with the trash?" The room went quiet. The hum of the lights filled the silence as the mother's breathing grew uneven. Tears welled in her eyes, but they weren't of sorrow. They were of rage, of a woman cornered. "You don't know what it's like," she hissed. "Raising a child who turns her back on you. Betrayal cuts deeper than any knife." Iman closed the file, his expression unreadable. "No, ma'am. What cuts deeper is a mother turning into her daughter's executioner. Her hands shook against the cuffs. For the first time, she looked small, powerless. The control she clung to was gone, and the case against her was only just beginning. By the time the mother's trial began in Denpasar, Bali, the case had already traveled across oceans. American news outlets aired the CCTV footage on repeat, the grainy images of a daughter pulled into her hotel room, the mother dragging a suitcase at dawn. Commentators called it the suitcase murder. Indonesians filled the courthouse steps, holding candles and photographs of the victim. The air was thick with outrage, curiosity, and sorrow. Inside the packed courtroom, ceiling fans whirred sluggishly against the tropical heat. Reporters jotted notes, cameras clicked, and the audience waited for the spectacle to begin. At the defense table, the mother sat in an orange prison jumpsuit, her once commanding presence dimmed, though not extinguished. She held her chin high, as if daring the world to judge her. The judge, robed in black, entered with deliberate gravity. This court will hear the case of the people versus. His voice rang with finality. A mother accused of murdering her own daughter. The prosecutor rose first, a tall man with sharp features and a voice that cut through the murmurs. He began with the simplest truth. She checked into that hotel with her daughter. Only one walked out alive. He gestured to the large screen where the CCTV images flickered again. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the suitcase scene replayed. Ladies and gentlemen, the prosecutor continued, this was not an accident. This was deliberate. A crime born out of obsession, control, and rage. Instead of protecting her child, she destroyed her. The defense attorney countered with a softer plea. He painted the mother as a woman overwhelmed, abandoned by her husband years earlier, clinging too tightly to the only family she had left. This was not premeditated murder, he insisted. This was a mother who snapped in the heat of an argument, a tragic mistake, not cold-blooded intent. Then came the witnesses. A housekeeper described seeing the daughter's quiet smile, her polite, "Thank you" for fresh towels. A bellboy testified he had seen the mother scold the girl sharply in the hallway. The manager recalled the mother's dismissive explanation the morning after. She went out early. Each testimony chipped away at her story, exposing her lies. But the most damning moment came when Detective Amand took the stand. With calm authority, he walked the court through every piece of evidence. The CCTV timeline, the fingerprints on the suitcase, the autopsy report showing blunt force trauma. His final words echoed like a hammer strike. Her daughter did not walk out alive. Her mother carried her out, piece by piece, inside a suitcase. The courtroom fell silent. The mother's composure cracked at last. She buried her face in her hands, shoulders trembling. The judge's gavel struck. This court will deliberate. As the session adjourned, the world had already reached its own verdict. A nation watched, horrified and transfixed. A sacred bond had been broken in the most unthinkable way, and the mother who once demanded control now sat awaiting the judgment of justice. The courtroom was silent when the judge returned to deliver the verdict. Even the ceiling fans seemed to slow, as though the room itself held its breath. Reporters leaned forward, pens hovering. Family members of the victim clasped each other's hands tightly, bracing for what they had long feared yet needed to hear. The mother stood as instructed, her orange jumpsuit stark against the dark wood of the courtroom. For the first time in weeks, her posture wavered. She no longer looked like the woman who had barked orders at a hotel counter or the cold figure on the CCTV footage. She looked smaller, older, but not innocent. The judge's voice rang clear. After reviewing the evidence, the testimony, and the undeniable record of what occurred, this court finds the defendant guilty of murder. A low gasp rippled through the spectators. The mother closed her eyes, her lips tightening as though she had been expecting this moment all along. For the crime of taking the life of your daughter, the judge continued, and for the deception and cruelty that followed, this court sentences you to life in prison. The gavel struck once, sharp and final. The mother's body seemed to fold into itself. Her knees buckled slightly, and she sank back into her chair, trembling. Tears slid down her cheeks, but they were not the tears of repentance. They were tears of defeat, of a woman who had lost everything: her daughter, her freedom, her control. Across the aisle, relatives of the victim wept openly. One aunt clutched a framed photo of the girl, whispering through sobs, You can rest now." Outside the courthouse, the crowd erupted. Some shouted for harsher punishment. Others shook their heads in disbelief, murmuring prayers. News crews captured it all: the flashing lights, the chants, the sight of the mother being led away in chains. Back in America, the story aired on every major network. Anchors repeated the same haunting phrase: a mother checked in with her daughter to paradise. Only one left alive. Justice had been served, at least in the eyes of the law. But for many, no sentence could undo the horror of a suitcase in the shadows, or the betrayal of a mother's hands becoming the weapon that ended her child's life. The sentence echoed far beyond the walls of that Bali courtroom. Within hours, the story was splashed across international headlines. Mother sentenced to life for daughter's murder in Bali. Talk shows debated it, morning anchors dissected it, and millions of viewers at home sat in stunned silence, shaking their heads at the cruelty of it all. In the United States, the outrage was personal. The victim had been young, American, full of promise, and cut down not by a stranger, but by the one person meant to protect her above all others. On social media, thousands posted under hashtags like #JusticeForHer and #SuitcaseMurder, demanding answers to the same question: how does a mother become her child's executioner? Experts flooded the airwaves. Psychologists explained how control could curdle into obsession, how toxic dependency could turn into violence. When love becomes ownership, one therapist said on a CNN panel, it is no longer love. It is a prison. And this young woman tried to break free. Others saw the case as a grim warning about unchecked control. Churches held vigils, where pastors reminded congregations that family bonds were sacred but never absolute. God gave us children to love, not to own, one preacher declared to a tearful crowd. Candles flickered as names were whispered, not just of the victim, but of other young people who had suffered in silence under the weight of parental domination. But the case also split public opinion. Some sympathized with the mother, calling her a broken woman pushed past her limits. She lost her mind. She lost control, a commentator argued. Maybe she deserves pity as much as punishment. That view, however, was drowned out by the overwhelming wave of anger. For the victim's friends, the pain was raw. One classmate spoke through tears at a memorial. She wanted nothing more than freedom, to chase her dreams, to be herself. Instead, her last moments were spent trapped, not just in a hotel room, but in a suitcase, discarded like nothing. The story refused to fade. Documentaries began production. True crime podcasts devoted entire seasons to the case. Everywhere, people repeated the same haunting refrain: if you can't trust your own mother, who can you trust? In the end, the outrage was not just about one girl's death. It was about a betrayal that shook the core of human instinct, the certainty that a mother's embrace should be the safest place on earth. Instead, it had become the most dangerous. Long after the trial ended and the cameras stopped flashing, the image that haunted the world was not the mother in handcuffs or the judge reading the verdict. It was the suitcase, that black, overstuffed bag being dragged across a hotel lobby in the dead of night, a silent witness to an unthinkable betrayal. For months, the footage replayed on television specials, documentaries, and late-night news. Each time, the world saw the same terrible truth. A young woman who should have been walking freely into her future was instead carried lifeless, folded into the confines of luggage meant for clothes, not a body. That suitcase became the symbol of everything stolen from her: her youth, her independence, her right to breathe another day. Back in her hometown in the U.S., the victim's friends and classmates held vigils, gathering around photos of her smiling on beaches and laughing in classrooms. They spoke about her dreams: to study art, to travel, to live without chains of control. One friend said, voice breaking, she wanted to see the world. She didn't know her world would end in a hotel room. Her family, still shattered, tried to focus on her memory rather than the crime. An uncle told reporters, "We refuse to let her be remembered as just a victim. She was light. She was love. That's who she'll always be." But even in those moments of remembrance, the shadow of the suitcase loomed. In Bali, the hotel where it all happened carried its own scar. Staff whispered about room 708, some refusing to clean it, others swearing they could still hear faint echoes at night: the slam of a door, the creak of wheels over tile. Tourists, once oblivious, now walked its hallways with a chill, knowing they were steps away from a crime scene that had shaken the world. True crime storytellers dissected the case endlessly, but beyond the headlines and sound bites, one theme echoed louder than any other: trust. If a mother could take the life she once gave, then the question remained: who can we ever truly trust? For Detective Amon, the case never left his mind. In interviews years later, he admitted, "I've seen many murders, but this one broke me. Not because of the evidence, but because of what it said about the fragility of love." A mother's embrace became a coffin. The legacy of the suitcase was not just about death. It was about the silence before it, the warning signs ignored, the desperate smiles of a daughter who wanted someone to notice. It was a story that forced strangers around the world to look at their own families and ask, are we holding too tightly? Are we loving? Or are we controlling? And so, the suitcase remains, not in a courtroom, not behind police tape, but in the collective memory of millions. A chilling reminder that paradise can turn to hell, that love can twist into possession, and that sometimes the deadliest place a child can be is at the hands of the one who gave them life.